Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 22nd episode of the Daily Attorney Podcast, where, as you know, we talk to women attorneys all over the U.S. who are simply amazing at what they do inside and outside of the legal profession. This month is actually a very special month. As many of our listeners know, I am from Haiti. I was born there and immigrated to the U.S. When I was 2 years old. In honor of my heritage, Haitian Flag Day, which is every year it's celebrated on May 18th, I wanted to have all Haitian women attorneys join our podcast. And our guest today, I'm pleased to announce, is the founder and managing partner of the law offices of Cazeau and Associates, Special Magistrate Beatrice Cazeau. The law offices is located in South Florida and represents clients in the areas of family and personal injury law. Beatrice currently serves as a special magistrate for the city of North Miami and as legal counsel for the Nuisance Abatement Board, as well as the Unsafe Structures Board for the city of Miami Gardens. In addition to running her law practice, Ms. Cazeau remains active in the community. She is the former president of the Haitian Lawyers Association, former board of directors for the Gwen S. Cherry Black Women Lawyers Association. I'm so nervous. I'm sorry. She is a founding member of the Haitian American Leadership Organization, an organization that provides scholarships to students of Haitian descent to pursue post-secondary education. In 2019, she earned her spot in the Legacy magazine as one of the 50 most powerful and influential Black business leaders for 2019. She has earned an Outstanding Community Service Award for the Haitian Lawyers Association. And if that is not enough, she was listed in Success South Florida magazine as one of the 40 under 40 achievers of today and tomorrow. It's just, she's done a lot. And I could go on and on and on and on and on, but I think I would run out of time. Beatrice, thank you so much for being here with us today. I was so nervous, like I was telling you backstage, interviewing a special magistrate is not something that I've done before. And I really want to deep dive into that. But just first, I just want to thank you to, be the first attorney to spiral into the Haitian Flag Day celebration in May 2022.
Thank you, Marie. I appreciate so much that you even give me an invitation to be here today. So thank you for that. I'm looking forward to an exciting interview, communication, conversation, and happy early birthday, because I understand May is also your birthday month. So
it is.
Here to celebrate with you.
Thank you. May 19th, literally the day after Haitian Flag.
Uh-huh.
So, two reasons to celebrate. Two wonderful reasons to celebrate.
Right.
So let's dive into your career, because you have over 20 years of legal experience, right?
It will be 22 in September.
Whew. Oh my goodness. So walk us through, how did you get to a point in your life where you said, you know what, I'm going to be an attorney?
Okay. So my recollection, to tell you the truth, is probably when I was in high school. I do recall, I went to school. I grew up in Brooklyn. Like you, I was born in Haiti. I came, you came here when you were about 2 years old. I came when I was 12. So grew up in Brooklyn, went to high school. I just remember I had this law class. It was called Everyday Law. So that's my earliest recollection. In addition to that, again, growing up in Brooklyn, I really didn't know any Black lawyers. I never really saw an attorney that looked like me, not male, not female, certainly not females. And being from an immigrant family, going to lawyers' offices, and whether you speak English or not, your parents always drag you along, and you're going to translate, you're going to interpret whatever is being said. And so I noticed that, wait a minute, why you're not going to a Haitian lawyer? Do we even have Haitian lawyers? And so these are my earliest recollection as to when I believe that I started. But if my mother used to say that I showed an interest in the law much earlier on in life, which I can't recall. But the push really came from my mom, because after graduation, I went to John Jay College of Criminal Justice, of course. And I started working as a fraud investigator in New York. And I got really comfortable. So I took an entire year off. And then one morning I woke up to my mom waking me up like with such urgency, because she felt like, my dreams were being deferred, because she didn't see me applying to law school and getting, taking whatever test needed that I needed to take. And she was like, this is not the plan that we had. She said, I need to see you start applying yourself, because you're going to law school. And I was thinking, oh my God, I'm making money. I'm working. Do we really want to go to law school?
Yeah.
But when mom says go, you just have to, you got to do it. You got to get it done. So I do credit my mom for the most part, because I was really comfortable at the new job. And I don't think that I would have, moved forward with the law school if not for my mom.
And I agree. And I think it's easy to get comfortable, when you're young, because especially when you're young, if you're making $1,000 or $2,000 a month, you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, right?
Rich.
You're rich. You're really rich. But realistically, that's not enough to live on. So I can definitely empathize with that. I had a similar journey. For me, it was, around 23. That's when I decided, oh, okay, this definitely is something that I love. I love the idea of helping people kind of get from, 0 to 60. I was working at a law firm in Hauppauge, New York, actually Brentwood, New York, and Long Island. And that was kind of like my first taste of attorneys. And realistically, no one looked like me, right? And everyone that looked like me was the secretary or the operator. Correct. Or something that was not in the actual legal field. And I think, I don't know how often you go back to Brooklyn. I was actually there this past weekend, but we still don't see too many, Haitian women attorneys in that field. There's a little bit more now in Haiti, of course, right. But to break that barrier is just, it's difficult, right? So we
see, kids see us, you understand? Because they need to see that it's possible. They need to see a Marie Eves. They need to see a Beatrice Cazeau to say, if they can make it, I can too. And I think that's why we're always fighting for diversity. We're fighting for diversity in the field. We're fighting for diversity on the bench, because it has to reflect the community, correct?
Right. You know what? I love that you bring up that point, because diversity is actually something that, growing up in Brooklyn, I went to school. I went to William Grady. It was a melting pot, right? I went to Ditmas Junior High. Again, melting pot. I never understood the need for diversity, because we're from Brooklyn, New York. Right. So what we see is what we at the time considered diverse. But it wasn't until I got into the legal field did that light bulb go off. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? And I looked at the stats, and I think it said at the time, I think it was like 2019, 8% of us are of color.
Correct.
And I was like, wait, well, what? How is that even possible that only 8% of brown people, and I say brown to encompass all colors, but I couldn't wrap my mind around it. And then I started paying attention more when I would walk into rooms. And, I would talk to my mom about this. She's usually watching. She's my biggest supporter. But I talked to my mom about this, and, her whole thing is, well, you should be proud of yourself that, you're the only brown person in the room. And I'm like, I don't know if that sits well with me. I don't know. Because, they're coming from a background, a country where they had to fight and break through barriers, that we kind of just walk through. So for them, it's an accomplishment. But for me, it was, I feel a little out of place here. you know? And then, of course, I started talking to other people, and I realized that the biggest issue is not that we're not invited, is that for some reason, because of the lack of representation, we think we don't belong.
Correct. Correct. And I
Right?
think that your mom is correct to a certain extent in the fact that sometimes we don't sit back and think, you know what, it is a great accomplishment, and I should, be able to pat myself on the back and say you've done good, you did well, right? To be able, coming from an immigrant community, right, to be able to basically arrive where you are today, right? It's a great accomplishment. However, what we're doing is that making sure that we reach back, right? We're reaching back and just pull some others that look like us and say, look, it's doable. You can do it. We don't have to be the one and only. I hate that in 2022, we're still talking about the one and only. It's frustrating that in 2022, that in the state of Florida, or let's say Miami-Dade, where we have the majority of Haitians, right? I think we're the second largest immigrant group in Miami-Dade County. That we're talking about, we have 2 Haitian American judges.
Wow.
You understand? So this is frustrating that because we're talking in 2022, and right now they both have opposition because unfortunately in South Florida or in Dade County, they still see us as easy targets.
Yeah.
You understand? They still see us as a group of people who are not electable.
Yeah.
If that's the right word. So it is frustrating. And so, yes, there shouldn't be, the first anymore. I cannot wait to get to a point in our career where we're no longer talking about the first. Imagine in 2022, we're just now talking about the first female Supreme Court justice, first black female Supreme Court justice. Come on.
Yeah.
When are we going to get to a point where we're no longer talking about first this and first that we have moved this far along, in the legal profession where there's no longer a first this and a first that when we're talking about, skin color, Black people, Haitian Americans, etc.
Yes, and I definitely agree with you. Breaking that first barrier is wonderful, but if we keep with the firsts, are we actually making any actual progress?
Well said.
Right? It's almost a perceived perception of progress, and I don't like that. So I definitely agree with you. In Brooklyn, I know my mom was talking to me about a few officials being elected, but I think it was for local office. And of course, it's in the community, so it's easier. Right. But when you're talking about, the Supreme Court or Court of Appeals in our state, in Maryland, we have Judge Angela Eames. I serve on the board with her of a charity, and she is the first Hispanic woman on the Court of Appeals. Mm-hmm. You're talking about Maryland that has a huge brown population.
Correct. But see, again, it goes back to, our mindset. It goes back to educating our people that it's important that you have people who look like you in certain position. You understand? It is important that because we know that in our community, especially the Haitian community, when you talk about even during elections, many of them don't know that it's important that you vote for these judges. You need to know who's running for office. They don't see judges as election as a position that they should care about because they still have the mindset that, we don't need them, they don't really make a difference in our everyday lives. Which is so far from the truth, right? And this is why we have shows like this, because we need to educate the population that it's very important who sits on the bench. Very, very important, because these people make decisions on a daily basis that affects you and your family. So it is important.
And it's incremental decisions, right?
Right.
It's not, they're micro and macro, and they affect everyday individuals, like you and I. And we are blessed in that we know the law, but we're also truly blessed because we can provide education to others, which is why I have, shows like this. I do another show called Let's Talk, where I educate people on the law and how it's changing. Because one of the things that I find is when my clients come into the office, they don't necessarily know what's going on. And I find myself in a position and as attorneys, we have to educate our clients,
Absolutely.
right? We have a duty to do that. In fact, if we don't, it's malpractice because they need to know what's going on, right? So that brings me to my next question. What made you decide to, once you go to law school, to take the track to open up your office and then ultimately become a special magistrate? Like, what was that transition like?
Believe it or not, ever since I was younger, for some reason, I always had the obsession with criminal law, but on the prosecution side. Mm-hmm. After I graduated law school, actually even before I graduated law school, I already had a position. I was already hired by the state attorney's office here in Dade County. And so by the time I graduated, I already knew that I was moving to Florida because I had, I was hired. I already had a position waiting for me. And so I worked as a prosecutor at the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office for several years. And then after, when I left the state attorney's office, I actually thought that I was going to practice criminal defense work. But sometimes what they say, you'll make plans and then God laughs. So it really, I didn't know that I would be doing the type of work that I'm doing now. It's mostly family law and personal injury cases, and of course, domestic violence cases. I really thought that, criminal work is where it's at, but it's just not what happened. And so when I left the state attorney's office back in 2002, and went into private practice, so right away, the bulk of our clients were family law, and personal injury cases. And, God has blessed us. This is what we've been doing, for the past 20 years now, since 2002 to 2022. Correct. And so this is where, life has, and as far the being a special magistrate, I basically applied and I was appointed by the counsel, and I have been doing the work for a very long time. To me, I see it as a way of giving back, because with everything, when you are blessed, you understand, you have to, we keep talking about reaching back, but part of that as well requires that, you give up your time and your service. And I handle, court enforcement cases. These are the type of hearings that come before me. And to me, I'm just not ruling on the violation, but it also gives me an opportunity to educate people, because a lot of times, sometimes rather, people don't even know that there are rules that governs, especially our Haitian people. It's my house. Why can't I do this in my house? And it's like, well, wait a minute. This is what the law says. You can't, in certain municipalities, you can't even cut down a tree without speaking with the, to the city and getting a permit. So, you have to educate people, even while you're sitting on the bench, to be able to say, before you do something, just speak to someone, come down to the city and meet with one of the workers, the enforcement officers, and just ask them, right? You don't go turn your garage into an efficiency, right? With running water and plumbing, and you think that you're going to get in trouble. But some people don't know that. They're not even thinking about that. And they're thinking it's my house. I'm paying a mortgage on it. The mortgage is in my name. The deed is in my name. And therefore I can do whatever I want with my house. And you're like,
No, you have local ordinances, you have city, you have state, you have all these different layers of regulations that you have to abide by. And, a lot of them make sense, some of them don't. But, as our jobs is to enforce the law, if we don't like it, we can take a position with the legislature and see to it that some changes are made. But as you know, there's some red tape there, so it's not as easy. It's not as easy as we would like to think it is.
But I think I'm in a position where, I have discretion to a certain extent, and sometimes I fight with the city attorney, or, with the code enforcement officer. They make their recommendations, but it's up to me, right, to make the final decision. And I like to give people an opportunity to remedy the situation. Obviously, if it's not as egregious as, like I just said, turning your garage into a full apartment, you have tied my hands. There's nothing I can do to help you here.
Nothing.
You understand? Either bring it up to code, you pay the fines, or you tear it down. And people don't understand that. And, these are that's the decision that you made when you chose to move forward on such a big decision without really speaking to people to make sure that, the decision is correct.
Yeah, and that's true. It's funny when you said that, I pictured, one of my family members like, well, I didn't know, because they're just so oblivious, to a lot of the stuff, because, buying a house or, any piece of property is such a huge achievement and investment that, most people are not sitting there.
For most people, it's their biggest investment. It's the American dream. Imagine, owning your own place, your own home, and especially our people, that's the ultimate American dream, to be able to come to this country and say that I own a piece of this country. And they take great pride in it. But what you just said is that, if you don't know, you need to find out. Right?
You definitely need to find out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Last thing that is a lien placed against your property.
And that's why counsel exists, right? Yes. For me, it's cheaper to pay an attorney $200 to $300 an hour versus paying $5,000 to $10,000 in fines. But that's just how I think. A lot of clients, I try to get them to understand that, like, before the circumstances hit. I have a client who I'm preparing an estate plan with a revocable trust, and there's some issues with, estranged marriages and children out of wedlock, and you can imagine the chaos. So, my thing is, I had to educate him, and I said, listen, in Maryland, we have something called the augmented estate. This revocable trust is not going to help you. She can reach in and grab. I understand you've been separated for 17 years, but you're going to have to get divorced, So that's kind of a lot of what we do. We educate individuals on, what they should do. But if they don't do it, here's what's going to happen. So for me, it's kind of a, a mitigation of damages before you even get damages. But a lot of people come to see us, as you well know, when things have already hit the fan and there's nothing we can do about it. So speaking of which, as far as, family law and PI, and I don't know, because that's not my area. I don't know how emotionally taxing it can be. I can imagine when, people come in with major catastrophes that have happened, they're missing a limb or something like that. I can imagine, how your heart bleeds for them. But how do you, realistically take care of yourself, so you can show up for everyone doing family law and PI, because those are two major areas.
Especially the family law cases, that it's extremely emotional, right? Clients come to you because their life is falling apart, right? Sometimes it's a long relationship, and now they're mourning this person, they're mourning this loss, and then they're going through the legal process right, of dissolving a marriage, a union. Sometimes there are kids involved. Sometimes there are properties involved. So it is quite emotional, and it's for you as the attorney as well, and you are the advocate, right, for your client, and you want to make sure you do a really good job representing your client, and while making sure that the best interests of the children are guarded and protected. Now, for you as a lawyer, I keep having to remind myself and my staff, they do that too. Sometimes they say, Ms. Cazeau, you need to take a break because because some certain cases, and sometimes some clients, and sometimes dealing with the courts and opposing counsel and everything. For me, I think what I do, I love a spa day.
Yes.
Yes. And I love to travel whenever I can. Sometimes I go with my kids. Sometimes I go alone because sometimes you have a long time. I always eat, whether I know ahead of time or not, whether, if I'm going somewhere, I always put my I always file my unavailability dates, because to me, it is very important that you take time off for yourself.
Yeah.
Even if it's a mental health day, it's very, very important. And I always say this is that we have to remember, especially nowadays, and I don't know, I believe this for all of us, before social media, before everything, you go to work, and of course sometimes you take work home, but you're able to control it somewhat, especially if they don't have access to your cell phone. Marie, I can tell you, clients will send you a DM on IG, on Facebook, on this and that and the other, and it's like,
yes,
my God, can you give me some time? You're receiving emails, because now emails come right through your phones, and you're in bed 10:30, 11 o'clock, and your phone is going off. Emails, WhatsApp. It's like there's no more buffer. There's no safe space anymore. And so you have to find a way to disconnect, because you need it to be able to show up every day and show up, 100% or 110% for your clients. You need to be okay.
Yeah.
Right? So you need to take time for yourself. And I am seeing, I don't know how we're doing with time. I realize that if we don't do it, it really does affect our health. I have a girlfriend of mine, one of my closest friends. We went to law school together, and she just passed away recently. It was so sudden, right? So sudden. She passed away, young woman, talking about she died of a heart attack and a stroke and a heart attack. How did this happen? This is a young woman full of life, active, workout every day. What's going on? Sometimes we don't realize that stress can lead to all kinds of illnesses, right?
Yes.
So if we don't take care of ourselves, and manage our stress level, what is the ultimate result of that? Yes, I do. I do take, self-care very seriously. I take my mental health very seriously. And I have no problem if a client is not unmanageable and make it, my job a lot harder than it needs to be. And after we've had a couple of conversations about it, maybe we're just not the right fit. I have no problems, withdrawing from a case, because I do value my life, because I have a family and I have 2 small children that I need to be able to live so I can watch them grow up.
Yes. Yes.
So it is what it is.
Yeah. And I definitely agree with that. And I had to learn that kind of the hard way, because like you, I was practicing family law, and then I realized for me, family law is the problem. And it's just some attorneys just don't need to be doing family law, and I'm on that list, right? So I had to make that switch. But mental health, I think as attorneys, as women, as Haitian Americans, we have so many ideas about what it means to be successful, right? And I think underneath those ideas, it's always do more, do more, do more. I am learning that maybe doing more is not what we should be doing, right? Um, so like you, I've realized, okay, I need to scale back because, and I was having a conversation with my friend last night, and I said, I don't think that if we were doing something right, we would have the levels of mental health issues, addictions, alcoholism, and burnout, and stress levels, and ailments that we do in the legal profession.
Correct.
We're clearly doing something wrong.
Correct.
And there's a lot of attorneys out there that just amazingly have figured it out. And they figured out a way to kind of run their practice like you and not drive themselves crazy. But there's so many resources and you're just like, I don't know what to listen to. But I think it all boils down to just working a little less, cutting down things. I purposely do not have my emails on my cell phone. I do not, no work emails are on my cell phone. My workstation is in the basement at my house or it's in my office. So if I'm in bed, if somebody's emailing, I don't know. I'm not going downstairs to a cold basement to check an email.
That's right. Good idea. I may have to start. I may have to implement that.
I had to. No, I had to because at first it was like, okay, I got to answer this. I got to answer this. And it's never code red. It's never actually an emergency and it can wait till tomorrow.
Absolutely.
So, the same thing goes for social media or anything that is not, taking care of this vessel. It can wait until tomorrow. So one of the other things that I've done, like you with the spa day, is if it doesn't feel good, I'm not doing it. It could be a $30 million case. If it doesn't feel right and I'm not doing it. It doesn't matter. It's not worth it, and having energy, not only to serve your clients, to serve yourself, but to just do other things, kind of like you do a lot of community service. I do a lot of community service and I'm not going to stop anytime soon. It's my thing. It's who I am. So how do you integrate your community service, with your work as a special magistrate and as a firm owner? How are you able to kind of squeeze all that in?
I think it's part of who I am, right? If I see a need in the community, I'm not going to say, well, this is not paying my bills, I'm not going to do it. The whole idea of giving back, to me, I have to give back to a community that has given me so much. Like I said, born in Haiti, raised in Brooklyn. I went to law school in Boston, and then I came down here to work. When I first got here to Florida, I literally knew about 3 people. My cousin, her husband, a girlfriend of mine who used to live in New York, right? And so it's basically being here and being involved with the Haitian Lawyers Association. The HLA does a lot of community service. They do a lot of pro bono work. And in 2006, I was the president of HLA. And so you cannot run from that, right? Mm-hmm. This is a community that needs a lot of work and legal expertise. And you understand, so you have to give of your time. You cannot just come into a community and just take. What are you giving back to this community, right? And just like when I was growing up in Brooklyn, like I said, I didn't see any reflection of myself. I didn't see anyone who looked like me. So the idea, the gall that I would even think that I can go to law school and make it, you understand, like, where did this come from, right? Yeah. Because when you don't see yourself reflected in whether it's a profession or whatever it is, then how did you even come up with the idea that I can be, right?
Yes.
Right? I can be a lawyer. I can be a prosecutor. I have never met growing up probably up until I actually went to law school, that I met a, Black female judge and attorneys, Haitian American attorneys. Come on. I didn't see that growing up. But thank God that I have parents who made me believe, especially my mom, because my dad wanted all his daughters to be nurses, child. And I said,
oh my gosh.
I said, Dad, I hate hospitals. If I cannot see the sight of blood, I would make a terrible nurse. I would be a nurse passing out.
Listen, my mom, Beatrice, my mom, and she is watching, and I know I'm going to hear it. Oh, Nadine, why don't you be a nurse? I said, Mom, I am not going to be another Haitian nurse. There are way too many of us. And I was like, frankly, 90% of them is named Marie. Okay. So no, I will not be another Haitian nurse. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing yet. As soon as I figure out, I will let you know. My dad, however, complete opposite. He's like, you okay? You good? That's all he cares about. Am I okay? Am I good? You know I love you, right? That is literally all that my dad says.
Because mine were the complete opposite. Daddy wanted everybody to be a nurse. He said nurses will never go hungry. I said, okay, Daddy, but I don't like blood. I don't like the hospital. I don't like the smell of it. I don't like the look of it. And as it comes, blood, I cannot stand the sight of blood or people suffering. So I knew this was not my calling.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This was not my calling. But my mom, on the other hand, she was like, you said you want to be a lawyer, that's what you're going to be.
Exactly.
Right to law school, and so she was like, okay, we're going to do this, right? That's what I did. But I go to schools. I go to predominantly Black, Haitian, schools that have predominantly Black students, Haitian students, first generation, second generation, so that they can see. And then I can tell them my story. Yeah. You understand? They need to be able to see themselves and say it is possible. Especially a lot of times you don't know what other people are feeding them. You don't know, if they're telling them that they can't do it, maybe because of, where they live, who, you understand, who I don't know. But for whatever it is, whatever I can add and basically be there and they can look at me and say, if she's able to do it, I can do it. Yes. And if they have questions, they can ask, what do I need to do to prepare now? And I tell them that all the time. I said, it starts now. You make sure that, you're getting good grades. Make sure that you go to school every day. Make sure that you pay attention. You do your homework. You understand? You may not necessarily know what you want to do, what type of law you want to practice, if you even want to be a lawyer. But always think ahead that I don't want to do anything today that's going to screw up my future.
Yes, yes. And you know what? It's crazy, as you stated earlier, the idea, and as I think about it, I have achieved everything I've ever wanted. Not because I'm special and have some kind of magical powers, but because I grew up in a home, and I'm really thinking about this. My mom never told me it was impossible to be an attorney. It was never a conversation that I've had, with my parents. It was always, what do you want to do? Right? So they implanted that idea in my head that as long as I know what I want, I'm going to get it. And that's exactly what has happened, and that's how I try to be with my son. He's 14 going on 15. I'm like, you have to know what you want. But boys are a little different. They don't listen. And they kind of just want to do their own thing. Right. But, oh gosh, they really don't listen. And, they're very sensitive beings. They don't let on that they're sensitive. But, children in general, and I was talking to someone, a client of mine, we had a divorce hearing. I'm not taking any family law cases, but I'm finishing up the ones that I have. And she's getting divorced. She's from Croatia. And she was saying to me that, you know, one thing she sees in her practice as a psychiatrist is that children who come in, someone at some point in time said something to them and they've just carried it, right? And that kind of just like sparked so many thoughts in my mind, because I've always been of the opinion that your words matter. You know, and I have this conversation with my son. He's like, no, you know, because he just lets things roll off his back. And I'm like, you think you're letting it roll off your back, but it's
in the back of your head, it stays there, and then it's gonna come to you when you least expect it. And you know, in a way, I did realize what your client said, but I guess in some way, I understood that, because I'm very cautious, you know, with my kids and how, you know, I talk to them. My youngest, who is 10, going on 100, he wants to follow in my footsteps. He wants to be a lawyer. And then I can see it in him that he's going to be a really, really good one, because of the way that he's able to analyze things, and, you know, and his reasoning skills. It's right there for a 10-year-old, right? And, you know, and my oldest, who is 12, you know, he's on his own path, and I'm trying to be supportive, even though I don't necessarily agree with it. But you have to let kids know that they have the ability, that they are capable, and they have everything that they need within them to be successful. Because you don't know what people out there are putting in their minds. You don't know what people are telling them. And you see success stories all the time, and people are like, well, I had this, you know, counselor who told me that I wouldn't amount to anything. I had a counselor who tried to dissuade me from pursuing, you know, a certain line of profession, because he or she felt that maybe just by looking at me, or, you know, the neighborhood where I live in, or my skin color, didn't feel that I had it in me to do it. And look at me now. And so it is important. And it is true what you said, that, you know, you have to be, and it starts at home. You have to encourage your kids. One thing I can always say, that my parents were very supportive of me and my dreams, you know, even though Dad wanted us to be nurses. But he would always say, though, and both my parents are, you know, have passed away now. They're no longer with us. But my dad used to say, whatever you need to do, you better do it now, while you're still under our roof, and, you know, and you don't have any bills. You know, Haitians love to tell you how you ain't got no bills.
Oh my God.
They pay for everything. You know, you're responsible. This is the time for you to do and pursue your dreams and do what you need to do while you're still here. You understand? And you don't have the responsibilities of the world, right? You don't have a mortgage. You don't have kids. So use the time that you have now to accomplish the goals that you wish to accomplish. And I always remember my dad used to tell us that all the time. He used to say, if you cannot do it now, you understand, while you here under our roof, and you're not, you know, financially responsible for anything. If you cannot do it now, I don't know when you're gonna be able to do it. You understand? Because adulting is not easy.
No, it isn't. Not only do they love to tell you that you don't have any bills, but they also love to tell you you don't pay bills here.
That's right. My father's favorite thing, and I don't know if you're even going to understand that. Like you to take care of. Like you ain't got nothing, like not even a fish or a bird to take care of. You understand? Like you have no excuse whatsoever not to do the things that you need to do. You understand? Because you have zero responsibility.
Zero responsibility. My mom, I was talking to her this morning, and I was telling her, because MJ, like, you know, like your son, like your 12-year-old, he's kind of on his own path. And I'm like, at first I was like, what am I doing wrong as a parent? And then I realized you're not accepting your kid for who he is versus who you want him to be, right? And it's a struggle, because, you know, I'm a litigator, I'm a business owner, I'm, recently I'm an interviewer, like all of these things that I'm doing. And MJ is kind of just, I'll let life be life. I'm like, you'll let what be what? So I'm like, wait, what is going on? But my inner old school Haitian is like, do you really think you're going to be here after 18 and I'm paying all these bills and you're just chilling? No, you're going to go find a job. But I'm trying to kind of get away from that and just be more encouraging, more supportive, which I already am, to the point where when he leaves the car in the morning, he's like, yeah, I know, I'm great. Okay, bye. What? You don't even care. This morning I was like, I love you.
As his own self-affirmation. Yes, I'm great. All right. Okay. I'll see.
Just say it, but at least I know he's listening, and it goes back to what you were saying before. Our children are listening, whether it's ours or our community children, that we work with and that we mentor and talk with. They're really listening. They hear us.
We're talking about, younger children. I can tell you in my life and in my practice, I would go to places and people would come to me because, like you, I have a show that I do. It's called Cause Legal.
Oh, I love that.
Legal talk, right? Cause Legal.
Wait a minute. Mine is called Let's Talk.
Yes, it's a legal talk, right? That's the translation, legal talk.
Yeah.
I do that. But even before that, I used to be on Island TV, right? Doing the same thing, Cause Legal, and then it was called Info Legal. Again, you're just educating the community on different issues, different topics, hot topics of the day, give them information. And, I would go to places and people would come up to me and say, Attorney Cazeau or Met Cazeau, like they like to tell you. Met
okay, Met. Okay,
right? And you're just so thankful and, sort of appreciative of the fact that you're giving them information that they didn't know and they feel that they've learned something. I've had young lawyers come up to me and say, you probably don't remember me, but you came to my school and, and I listened to you and you were so, I was inspired by what you had to say and what you had to share. And I'm like taken aback because you're like, you really don't know who's listening, who's watching. You understand? But every now and again, someone would cross your path and then they would be so grateful, that something that you did that you probably don't even remember. Yes. Right? And you're like, okay, in your own small way, you're making a difference.
Yes.
Right? You're giving back to the community. And that's all it is. I see your heart. I see what you're doing, and I'm so proud of you because I know that people don't even understand that we're taking time out of our, work schedule. We can be billing something on a case right now. You understand? And you're doing it and giving up your time. And people don't understand. For lawyers, we don't just wake up one day and say, "Well, we're going to do a live." You understand? Not for. I don't know. I don't do it like it takes preparation. I know your office have been in contact with my office, for months trying to get this interview together. And so, the fact that people actually appreciate the fact that, you're giving back in your own ways and this is how you're doing it. I know I appreciate it very much because I know what it takes. And
listen, our schedules are insane. Some days I'll call my colleague Jaika and I'm like, what can we take off? Because I am feeling the burn right now. Our schedules are absolutely insane because we really do love to help others.
Right.
We come from a country where your neighbor is not your neighbor. Right? It's the whole neighborhood. I don't know about you, but when my family used to call people in Haiti, they're like, oh, go down the block to, so-and-so's house and go get the phone. I'm like, wait, you're going to a stranger's house? Like, strangers? Why is that? We go to strangers' house. Like, because everybody is family. We all help. And it takes a village to really get things done, whether it's in business, whether it's in your personal life, community, like you do with your charity, which I'll talk to you about. It really does take a subset of people to kind of just lift it and keep it up, right? And that's something I had to learn too, because I grew up watching my mom do everything. So I just thought, oh, I'm Superwoman too. Let me do everything. No, it worked. Did not work, because I am one of those attorneys that my goal is not to get rich. My goal is to make the most difference in in a community's lives, in whatever, it's to provide value. That's what I'm trying to say. It's to provide value. So when we, come on here and we're talking, it's about people seeing who we are and our backgrounds, whether colorful or not, and the things that we get to do in our daily lives, I feel are so important and so influential, to the people that are paying attention. I had a case where the other side, she was going through a really tough time, and I was representing, the plaintiff. And I ended up having a talk with the defendant and giving her a pep talk and kind of just telling her, listen, you are who you say you are, not who community deems you to be, right? And I don't remember what we were talking about. She was like, well, I've been watching your podcast and they've really helped me. This was a young woman who, Brown, started law school and for whatever reason dropped out. And she's now watching my podcast and decides I'm going to go take the LSAT again. And I'm simply just highlighting other women attorneys who happen to really be amazing, and just that kind of influence. It's amazing to see, who I've helped and the feedback that we have gotten. So I know your schedule is packed, mine is too, but I am so enjoying this. I know when I get off, my mom is going to be like, right? Like,
we don't have a choice because, really, my mom, and I don't want to leave my dad behind, but my mom was really my biggest cheerleader.
Yes.
Biggest cheerleader. And I always tell people that, how sometimes you do something and that it's a great accomplishment, but for some reason, the way we were raised, it's like you don't want to be, bragging, about your accomplishments or what have you. And then I would talk to my mom because, she lived in New York. And so I would say, Mommy, I got, we call her Ninin. I would say, Ninin, I got an award today, or I'm getting an award. And she was like, oh, and you just telling me this?
Yes.
Yes. Me, because my mom will be on the next thing flying, the bus, what have you, because she was so supportive of everything that we do. And then I would be like, it's not, it's not a big deal. But to her, it's a big deal. She's as soon as she hung up the phone with me, she's about to call her sisters, her friends, everywhere to say, guess what? Right? It's a sense of pride for them too. You understand? And so I think for the most part, for us, we're doing things and we're getting these accolades and awards, and we're afraid to say, well, shoot, yeah, I kind of deserve that. I did do it. Right?
Yes. And I don't know where that humility is coming from. I don't know if it's, maybe rooted in shame because you don't want people to think. So Tanae made a statement. She said, Nadine doesn't brag at all. When she got the LLM, she didn't tell me when. And when she finally did, she didn't tell me she got the estate planning certificate too. I know, Tanae, I'm bad. That is one of my good friends, Tanae. Talk about support. So Tanae has supported me since day one. I'm surrounded by a group of people that want better, do better. They're just great humans. But for some reason, even when I give my accomplishments, I just kind of it's almost as if, and like Eric Thomas said, he said, when bad things happen to us, we put all of the energy into discussing and complaining about that bad thing, right?
That is so true. That is true.
But when something good happens, we don't say anything because we expect it to happen. It's almost like it was destined. And now I was like, whoa.
We need to flip that. I think we put too much energy. You understand? We put too much energy, and sometimes it could be crippling, right? Because you put all your energy in this one bad thing or one bad mistake. But what about all the great stuff that you have accomplished? You've accomplished a great deal of things, and I think you have said it. I think that it is true in terms of who we have in our lives, our everyday lives. Of course, we have our families, and then we have our friends who are the families that we chose, right? And I have a great group of girlfriends, my core, right? That we're always on the group chat, and they lift you up, they lift your spirit. I wish everyone, you understand, had a solid group of friends, especially girlfriends, because I think that the media have portrayed us, especially Black women, as if we don't have nurturing girlfriends, good relationship. And it's not true. That's not who we are. Whatever you're seeing on social media or on reality TV, that's not truly who we are, because we are very supportive of each other. You understand? We have long lasting friendships.
Yes.
And where we can tell each other the truth, and we can, you have a shoulder to cry on. You can really be raw and share with them what's really going on. Things that you don't necessarily, if you're smart, you're not going to post on social media. You understand what I'm saying? If you're smart, you're not going to post on social media, but your core girlfriends know what's going on, that they're supportive, and they're going to tell you the truth, right? In a loving, caring way, but sometimes we want to hear the, right?
We have to hear the truth. And it's good people around you that can actually tell you the truth when you're not being your best self, and say, hey, listen, I know something's going on. You're not being your best self, and this is what I'm seeing. Talk to me. It's good.
It has nothing to do with competition. We're not competing, even though a lot of my girlfriends, they're also lawyers. Not all of them, but most of them are lawyers. But we are supportive of each other.
Yes.
There's enough cases, enough clients, enough money to go around.
Yes.
We don't have to be competing with each other. We don't have to, pull each other down. We're not crabs in a bucket. You understand? We can be very supportive. We can have true, genuine friendship and be supportive of each other. I can tell you that I am blessed. I don't know whoever said that you cannot have long-lasting, genuine friendships with, other women. I can tell you that I am a living testament that I don't know what I have done in my past life, but God has blessed me, you understand, with some great friends who are genuine, who are supportive, that I can be open and honest with them. I don't have to sugarcoat anything. I can tell it like it is. And, I thank God for that.
Tanae said, now I'm thinking about your final paper. So with my LLM, Tanae, that's not nice. So for my LLM, I was supposed to write, I did an independent study, and I ended up writing like a 60 some odd page paper. Beatrice, I quit. My paper was due, the first draft was due in November. I'm thinking December. So I'm kind of I'm coasting, right? And so December comes, Professor Brown sends me an email like, Nadine, most people call me my middle name, Nadine. They're like, where's your paper? I'm like, wait, what paper? Isn't it due at the end of the month? He's like, no, it was due last month. I was like, oh, okay. So I called Tanae and I was like, do you think I could write a paper in a week? She was like, how many pages is it? I said, well, it's going to have to be minimum 25 to 30 pages. I said to her, she was like, I don't know. Did you do the research? I was like, yeah. She goes, okay, then I think you can. So long story short, so I kept going. And by the time December came, I was so burnt out with my law firm and everything like that. I said, I can't, it's December. You're planning for the holidays. You're doing all this work, and your lot of clients want to be divorced by
Yes.
December,
Yes.
right? So
Especially the ones who have not complied all year long. The
listen.
Yeah, they want miracles. Yes.
Those were the ones. And so I sent an email to my professor. I'm like, I quit. He's like, what do you mean you quit? He said, what just call me before you quit. I said, Professor, I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm being everything to everyone. I can't do this. Talk about community. He gets on the phone and he's like, listen, here's my option, that I have on the table. If you can get this paper to me by, I think, end of January, he's like, you'll be fine. He said, because you have a really good idea. It was, the paper was on the child tax credit and, some racial biases, some racial issues, some inequality issues between communities of color versus, poor Caucasian individuals. So it was a really good paper. I got an A+ on it, so I'm very happy. And thank you. And so I called today. I'm like, hey, can you help me with an outline? And she's like, sure. So she just said it. She literally, just sat down with me. We went through an outline. And she's been one of my biggest supporters. We actually met in law school, and we had our first tax class together, and we've just hit it off ever since. So yes, that's one of those times where she definitely came through, and I've reciprocated in ways that I want to discuss, but she's a great human. So I'm there for her, and she's there for me. But it's been a crazy thing. And I wanted to tell you something. I know you said when you called your mom and told her about the award, I know my mom tells like half of New York City I'm an attorney. I'm like, can you please stop telling people this? My license is only good in Maryland. How about you come to Maryland and tell all these people this? She literally tells me.
That's how you get these random phone calls talking about, I want to talk to you about this case. And it's like, ma'am, who are you and where are you calling from? Well, I'm in Massachusetts, but your mom says you're a lawyer. It's like, oh.
And a lot of people don't know that our licenses don't, we can practice federal law anywhere, but for state law purposes, we can only be, in our state unless we have
your license to practice.
Yes. But with that said, before I let you go, I have to ask you about your charity, Haitian American Leadership Organization. Camille and I are actually, so I'm going to open my own charity because it's something that's near and dear to my heart. And, to have people on, I've had a couple of attorneys who have established their own, 501c3 organizations. What made you decide to go this route? I mean, clearly, because you're of Haitian descent, and sounds like you studied in all of the Haitian places in the United States. You went New York, Miami, and Massachusetts. Come on, like that's where our people are, right? Yeah. So what made you decide to go this route with the charity?
Basically, I actually got a call from a dear friend who is Dr. Angelo Goose. And he called me, and when he pitched the idea to me and said this is what he wanted to do, and this was really early on, and he says, let's get a group of us together and let's do this, so that, because we know that there are a lot of our people who they don't have the means, and if we're able to give them a little boost, that it will go a long way. And so a group of us, there's about 5, the original founders, the founding members, 3 doctors and 2 engineers, IT and me, you understand? And we decided to come together and put the group together. And, it's amazing. Obviously, I have to admit that we have not done anything really since COVID. Okay. But, we have to get back together and trying to see, if we want to pursue, because we have a lot of students of Haitian descent who have benefited from getting scholarships and mentorship, because I'm telling you, we're pretty well connected here in South Florida. And imagine you have a well-known urologist, which is Dr. Angela Goose. You have Dr. Harold Melizier, you understand, who is a family physician. You have Bernard Eugene, who is, an engineer. You have Teddy Brazel, who is a software designer. So you have people, and then we have so many different members who were involved. So you have access. If you said that you wanted to go to law school, we can connect you with a lawyer, along the whatever law you want to practice. If you want to say you want to go to medical school, you have doctors who can walk you through the process and tell you, this is the things that you need to start doing. This is who you need to reach out to. So, if that's what you want to do in the area where you are, definitely, because I know that the need is there. You just need to identify what it is, what the needs are, and then you proceed from there. Because if you search, if you look, there's going to be a need.
There really is a need, and it's astronomical, right? I still can't wrap my mind around the math as to how many needs there are. Even as firm owners, as you know, there's more clients than there are attorneys.
Yes.
And these things, personal injury can happen to anybody. Family law, I think, gets a bad stigma because it's all, divorces and child custody. No, because I've done plenty of prenups, postnups. I've done a lot of second parent adoptions, which are my favorite things to do. There's such
a thing, one of the best things in family law. I love adoptions too. I said, this is the part where everyone is happy. I call it everyone is happy. You have this family, who are coming together. You understand? You have a step parent who has just adopted, his or her stepson or daughter, and it's like everyone. The judge is happy.
Girl, yes.
You don't have to worry about the judge cutting.
Yes. Literally I call it happy law. I just do, because it's such a wonderful thing to see families come together and stay together. And I did a lot of divorces where everyone was rational, but unfortunately that's not too many of them. No. Usually people are emotional, like you stated earlier, but when it comes to using our degrees and our knowledge, our knowledge for positive things, it's amazing what you're doing. I don't know when you sleep, and you look absolutely fabulous today. So I don't know if it's a filter or you, like, whatever genes your parents passed down. That's great, because you are a special magistrate, you're running a practice, you have your own charity, and you participate with HLA and so many other organizations, and you're able to give back. I have no idea when you sleep, but it's very clear to me that the community loves you and you love it. That is what I'm getting from this interview today. I've never had an interview last this long, so thank you so much. I know we talked a lot and we made fun of our parents, and our family, and our friends, but it's all with love. But with that said, I always like to, end on a high note. If you were to leave an impact on your community, your family, your friends, your clients, what would you hope that impact would be?
I think that I would want to leave the legacy for my my kids or my family that I guess you have to be able to leave this place better than the way you found it, right? And you have to really look within and see how can you contribute positively to your community, wherever you are and whatever your community looks like. Because I always said, I have benefited a great deal from this community. Having come here, moved here in 1999, you understand, not knowing but 3 people in this community, to be able to say, again, the nerve of me to say, well, I'm going to leave the state attorney's office and I'm going to start my own practice. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes I amaze myself because I don't know where this tenacity comes from. You understand? I really don't. I don't know where this tenacity comes from to say I have never met a lawyer that looked like me, but you know what? I'm going to go to law school.
Yeah.
I have, I don't know that many people in the state of Florida, but I'm going to open a practice and it's going to, I will be successful because in my life, and it could very well be, again, what you said, you speak life into your children, right? And
Yes.
we have our parents who do that for us. Failure to me has never been an option. You understand? I don't see myself as a failure, and I do believe in a higher power. I grew up a Christian, so I believe in the power of prayer. I know that there's a higher prayer that I can always, a higher being that, that watches over me and protecting me. And so maybe that's what it is. But I know that if I set my mind to do something, it's going to get done. And
Yes.
I will succeed. You understand? I will succeed. And so I tell everyone, including my kids, is that, I believe in karma. And I think that whatever you put out there, it does come back to you, tenfold. And so if you want, good karma, if you want good things to happen to you, if you want good things to happen to your family, you need to be able to give, positive energy, give up your time. Life is more than just, riches and wealth, right? Of course, we have bills to pay, we have a family to raise, and, this is a very prestigious profession, but what are you doing back? What are you giving back to your community? Are you really reaching back and giving back to your community? And I believe in that. In my legacy, I hope that my kids can see that my life's work is that, I'm not just here to take, but I am here to give back to my community. And it should show up in my service, right?
Yes.
What
Yes.
do I do? How do I give back to this community? How do I make this community better?
Yes.
Just
And
for
one,
my children, but for the kids who probably don't have a parent who is an attorney, right?
yeah.
So
Yes.
I hope it answers.
No, that definitely answers my question. And, I always like to ask that because, a lot of times we get into many different topics on the show. There's not, one specific trajectory that I usually follow. But when I ask that question, the true person is kind of summed up, right? Because you get to know someone over the course of 30 minutes to an hour, but you really get to see their light shine when I ask that. And 100% of the time when I ask it, the attorney comes to life in just a very different way. It's so amazing to see, and that is exactly why I started this program, because I knew that there were attorneys out there like myself who were people focused and are just doing this because this is just who they truly are. You don't have to pay me a dime and I'd still be an attorney. That is the kind of attorneys that we have on this panel. And Camille does such a great job of researching and finding women such as yourself who are just out there giving, not expecting to receive, and it's just such an amazing journey that my guests always take me on. And I definitely want to thank you for it. Shout out to the Haitian community. I live in Maryland, so unfortunately our community is a little small. They're concentrated in Prince George's County, Montgomery County, and Charles County. I don't know what they're doing in Charles County because that's close to the water. I don't know about you, but I'm not moving that far. That is way too far. But that is where we are. Definitely shout out to the Haitian community. And Beatrice, thank you. I'm gonna call you Beatrice.
Beatrice. That works for me.
I was speaking to my mom and I was like, did you see her name is Beatrice? She was like, yeah, well, going Beatrice Susho. What man name? For people who don't speak Creole, that means basically you go girl, in a sense. But with that said, Beatrice, if anyone would like to get in contact with you for whatever reason, what is the best contact method that you would like for them to use? How can they reach you?
Okay. Basically, we are on all social media platforms, mostly Facebook, Instagram. It's Cazeau Law Firm, Cazeau Law Firm. And they also can find, Cause Legal, which is the show that I told you about, the talk show. Cause Legal, it starts with a K, K-O-Z-E, legal, L-E-G-A-L. Or Cazeau Law Firm. It's my last name. Cazeau Law Firm, IG, Instagram. Our office, they can call us, is 305-614-0702, 305-614-0702, or on our website, which is www.cazeaulawfirm.com.
And I thank you for that. I love the Cause Legal idea. Camille just added the firm, and it will be in your bio. We always add it so that way people can easily find you. This has been amazing. You are my first magistrate, and I hope not the last. This was awesome. I was so nervous. I was tongue-tied, and now I'm relaxed. Granted, my chair has sunk to the bottom, so now I'm on the same height.
Right? I learned how to push mine up, and yours just shrunk to meet,
My chair was like this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, don't think about it. Don't stop thinking about it. And it just kept sinking. This is the stuff that happens when you go live, but it's okay. With that said, Beatrice, thank you so much. Merci, merci, merci. I don't laugh at my Creole. It's hilarious. Thank you so much for being here. I am your host, Marie-Eve Nadine Jean-Baptiste. I am the
owner. Shout out to them. Shout out to your mom. Tell her I said hello.
Oh my gosh. I'm flushed. My parents did a number on my name, girl, and they named me, talk about prophecy. They named me after Saint Eve. As you know, I grew up in a Catholic household, so patron Saint Eve was a lawyer, right? So they kind of set my destination for this life by giving me that name, and I love my name, and named my firm after it. So with that said, I am the owner and CEO of the St. Eve Law Firm. Beatrice, thank you again for being here today. Please follow, like, and subscribe the St. Eve Law Firm on all social media outlets. And everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day. Bye.